What question to investigate? Now, let's talk about those questions that we've been talking about previously. Some basic question to consider. If we are to study any syntax of any language, we must consider these questions in our mind, and the easier way to look at that language to seek answer of these questions. For example, what is the neutral or unmarked constituent or order in that clause if there is one? So we can look at the word order of a language. Obviously, we have looked at English. English is an analytical language, so we can spot words. However, if we are dealing with some synthetic language like Arabic or any other, we may have difficulty because analytical languages are easy because the word order is very clear. If no neutral constituent order describe the main principles of linearization, so we must not look at those feature. If no neutral constituent order, if the language has no neutral constituent order that is linear, you should at least illustrate a transitive clause with two full NP arguments and an intransitive clause. So the simple way is to form a sentence in which we have a transitive verb that has two noun phrases, or a clause with an intransitive verb, to understand the linear order of the word order in that language, how words are arranged, whether it's the subject first or verb first or object first, etc. Are they orders the same in both these clause type? So words are arranged in a similar way in transitive and intransitive sentences or clauses. So what alternative neutral constituent order are possible, if any? How marked are these? So if there is some other neutral constituent which does not actually, for example, the languages like Latin, in which it's very difficult to find any arrangement of different constituent or word order, because there are certain markers which tell that this word is subject, this word is object, this is verb, and they can be found anywhere in the sentence. So what are the main word classes, syntactic categories in your language, and obviously in a language that you are working on? Obviously, generally we believe that noun, verb, adjective, adverb, etc., but they are arranged differently in different. For example, if we take our Urdu, we have ism, fail, harf. Contrary to English, which has noun, verb, adjective, adverb, the arrangement of adjective, adverb, etc. is different in Urdu than it is in English. Is your language predominantly head initial or predominantly head final? So that's one of the main differences. We talked about it in our previously when we were discussing that different languages have head initial and head final, right? How does your language express clausal negation? How does the negative clauses are made? Describe the main strategies for joining clauses together that are found in your language. What are the coordinating conjunctions that join the clauses? In English we know, but do we know in our language that we are studying, or the language that we are studying with the help of some language consultant or native speaker? Are the constituent orders occurring in subordinate clauses the same as those in root clauses, or different? If different, describe the difference carefully. So this is one of the important aspects. Are the subordinate clauses have the same word order of the superordinate clause, or they have different word order? How, if at all, does your language mark morphosyntactically the relationship between heads and dependents? So how they are similar, and how these two concepts are different. Does your language readily identify distinct constituent, right? So there are certain markers which tell this is the singular and this is the plural, this marker is for gender, masculine, this is for feminine. So are these markers clear or not. Describe the ways in which the grammatical functions, for example, adjunct, object, and s are identified in your language. For example, in English, it has a certain phrase structure, but in Arabic, certain markers are found. Your language almost certainly has some readily identifiable ways to change the grammatical function or relation, either increasing or decreasing the valency of a verb, right? So, with the help of this valency of the verb, we can increase different grammatical function in our language. So, this is the same in the language we are discussing, or it is different from English or our own language. Describe how WH constituent questions are formulated. For example, in our Urdu, we use the word kya, right, to form question. So, how does, if our language is Urdu or any other, how WH words mean question word work in that language? Are there any other interesting syntactic construction that are not covered by these questions? If so, explain and illustrate them. So, what is interesting about the language that you are working on, and you want to highlight it for that aspect for your reader? So, when you are working on these things, you need to answer these questions. You may be wondering why it's worthwhile to investigate the grammar of languages, because working on the grammar of languages is a very interesting thing, because it brings into your mind the working of a human mind, right? And beside that, nowadays the number of languages is decreasing by and by for so many reasons. Globalization is one of those reasons. So it is very important to study, as linguists, to study languages, so that before the language dies, we have data. So because the data of that language will help us to peep into the working of the human mind. So consider the fact that every week languages are becoming extinct. So for the purpose of understanding human beings and the way they work, we must learn to work on the languages, as many as languages possible. So with the help of these questions, we can understand languages, and through languages we can peep into the mind of human beings.